The bruises beneath the silent sight was just past midnight when Keanu Reeves turned onto the quiet back road near Pasadena. He had just wrapped a long shoot and decided to drive himself home. Instead of letting the driver wait, the city was asleep, and the soft hum of his car was the only sound breaking the stillness. As he approached the far end of an industrial area filled with closed garages and auto shops, he noticed something that made him instinctively ease off. The gas-ducted figures were sitting on the cold ground outside a shuttered repair garage. They were huddled together, one wrapped in a faded pink blanket, the other with her arm protectively curled around the smaller one. Even in the dim light from the street lamp, something didn't feel right. Their bodies were still, and their heads hung low like they had been sitting that way for hours. Keanu pulled over slowly and stepped out of his car. His boots crunched on the gravel as he approached. He didn't say anything at first, just moved carefully so he wouldn't scare them. The woman looked up. Her face was bruised. One eye was nearly swollen shut, and dried blood clung to the edge of her lip. Her daughter, no older than 6 or 7, clutched her side and trembled slightly. Her tiny face bore a red mark on her cheek like someone had hit her. Keanu's single quotes as heart dropped. He bent down slowly, holding up both hands so they knew he meant no harm. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. The woman didn't respond at first. She looked at him with hollow eyes that had seen too much pain in too short a time. Then, almost like she had forgotten how to speak, she whispered, "Please, don't call anyone." Keanu shook his head gently. "You're safe," he said, kneeling closer. "I'm not here to hurt you. Can I help?" The girl looked up at her mother, then at Keanu. Her small voice cracked through the silence. "My mommy's hurt bad." Keanu took off his jacket and draped it around them. The night air was biting, and both were shivering. His voice stayed calm. "Steady. What's your name?" he asked the woman. She hesitated, then said, "Melissa." "And hers?" he asked, nodding toward the girl. "Lila," Melissa whispered. Keanu could feel the weight of the moment. This wasn't just a woman and her daughter out on the street. Something horrible had happened, and judging by their silence, it had been happening for a long time. He stood up and unlocked the passenger door of his car. "Come with me. We'll go somewhere warm. No hospitals, no police. Just warmth, food, safety, if you want it." Melissa hesitated. She looked at her daughter. Then she nodded. Keanu's single quotes as home was quiet and filled with soft light. He didn't live like a celebrity. His place was warm, simple, and peaceful. As he made tea in the kitchen, Melissa and Lila sat wrapped in blankets on his couch. He had found a first aid kit and gently offered it to her, placing it beside her. Without asking questions, he handed Lila a soft bear from his guest room. "I keep it for my niece," he said with a smile. "She says he keeps nightmares away." Lila smiled weakly. They ate slowly, their silence speaking more than words ever could. It wasn't until the warmth returned to their hands and faces that Melissa spoke again. "We had nowhere else to go," she said, her voice flat. "He locked us out tonight, took my phone, broke my car, said if I called for help, he'd find us." Keanu's jaw tightened, but he said nothing yet. He simply nodded and let her continue. "I've been with him since I was 19. He wasn't always like this. Or maybe he was and I didn't see it." She paused. "He's not her real dad. Lila's father died before she was born. This man, he came later. At first, he helped, then he drank, and then the hitting started." Keanu sat down across from her. "Why tonight?" Melissa looked at her daughter, who had fallen asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket and clutching the bear. "She screamed," Melissa said. "When he raised his hand at her, she screamed so loud. Something inside me just snapped. I fought back. I grabbed Lila and ran. She looked away, but we didn't get far. My car wouldn't start. We hid near that garage for hours. I didn't know what else to do." Keanu was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "You did everything right." She looked at him, surprised. "You protected her," he said gently, "and you ran. That takes strength." Melissa's eyes began to fill with tears. "People always say I'm weak," she whispered. "He told me no one would help us, that no one cares. I believed it." Keanu leaned forward. Then he was wrong. At 3 in the morning, Melissa stood in the guest bathroom, gently cleaning her wounds with the aid of the mirror. She could hear the faint sound of the dishwasher in the kitchen, the murmur of safety. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she had to look over her shoulder. But deep inside, fear still clung to her. What if he found them? What if Keanu changed his mind? As she looked at herself in the mirror, she didn't recognize the woman staring back. She saw a stranger, broken, ashamed. But behind her bruises, behind the fear, was something else. A spark, a question burned in her mind. Why would a man like Keanu Reeves help someone like her? In the morning, Keanu made pancakes. He had no idea what to say, so he let the smell of cinnamon and butter fill the silence. Lila giggled when he flipped one to high and it landed halfway on the pan. Her laugh was light and honest, something Keanu hadn't heard from her the night before. Melissa smiled. For a moment, they looked like a family. Keanu sat down and said, "I know a woman. She runs a shelter for women and children. Not just a place to stay, it's a place to heal. She's kind, discreet. She won't ask too many questions unless you want her to." Melissa hesitated. "Will he find me there?" "No," Keanu said. "She'll make sure of it. And I will too." Melissa looked down. Her hand reached over and held Lila's. "I want a new life," she whispered. "Then let's begin it," Keanu said. But just as she began to let hope in, the doorbell rang. Keanu froze. His eyes flicked to the security screen near the hallway. His expression darkened. Outside, a man stood. With bloodshot eyes, fists clenched. It was him. Lila's single quotes S voice broke the silence. "Mommy," she whispered, "he found us." The man at the door. Keanu didn't move for a second. The man outside the door shifted his weight, glancing around like he wasn't sure if he was being watched. He wore a wrinkled leather jacket and scuffed boots, and even through the screen, his rage was clear. His fists were tight, his mouth set in a line like stone. Melissa's hands began to tremble. She gripped Lila and pulled her close, trying to stay calm. But her breathing was shallow. Lila clung to her mother's waist, her little eyes wide with fear. "That's him," Melissa whispered. "His name is Cody." Keanu turned to her and spoke gently but firmly. "Take Lila. Go to the back room. Lock the door and don't come out unless I call for you. Can you do that?" Melissa nodded, her whole body shaking now. Keanu waited until they disappeared down the hallway, then walked slowly to the front door. He didn't open it. He simply pressed the intercom button beside the security screen. "Who are you looking for?" Keanu's voice was calm, but there was a steel edge underneath. Cody squinted at the speaker. "I know she's in there. That woman, Melissa." Keanu said nothing. "Look," Cody went on, his tone changing, trying to sound casual. "This is a misunderstanding. Just send her out, all right? She doesn't belong with someone like you. This ain't your business." Keanu took a breath. "Go home," he said. Cody's single quotes S face twisted with fury. "What did you say?" "You heard me." Keanu said. "You're not getting near her again, ever." "I'm her man," Cody snapped. "You think you can just take what's mine?" Keanu's eyes narrowed. "She's not an object. She's not yours. And if you don't walk away now, you're going to learn something very quickly about what happens when a coward puts his hands on a child." For a long moment, Cody just stood there, breathing hard, staring at the door like he was trying to decide whether to smash it in or run. Then, slowly, he turned and walked back to his truck. He didn't slam the door. He didn't shout. He just stared at Keanu's house for a long time before starting the engine. Keanu watched him drive off, then stayed at the door for another 5 minutes. Just to be sure, Melissa was sitting on the floor in the back room, holding Lila close. Tears streamed down her face silently, falling onto her daughter's hair. When Keanu opened the door gently, she jumped. "It's okay," he said. "He's gone." Melissa didn't speak. She could in single quotes T. Lila looked up. "Did he hurt you?" Keanu knelt down beside them. "No, sweetheart. I didn't even open the door. He just left." Melissa buried her face in her hands. "He's going to come back. He always comes back. I should have known he'd find us." Keanu looked at her and said, "Then we won't wait for him to. We move now. You'll stay somewhere safe. Somewhere he'll never find. But where? Melissa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Keanu stood. I told you, I know someone. An hour later, the sun was beginning to rise over the hills. Soft golden light touched the horizon as Keanu's car pulled up in front of a tall iron gate covered in ivy. It didn't look like a shelter. It looked like a home. As they entered the quiet property, a woman in her 60s stepped outside to greet them. Her name was Grace, and everything about her lived up to it. Soft smile, warm eyes, the kind of person you trusted before she even said a word. You're early, she said to Keanu, with a knowing look. It was time, he replied. Grace turned to Melissa and Lila. You must be tired. Come inside. We'll get you clean clothes, a hot meal, and a bed you don't have to look over your shoulder in. Melissa stared at her in disbelief. You're not going to ask questions. Grace smiled. Only if you want to answer them. Tears spilled from Melissa's eyes again. This time, they weren't from fear. They were from relief. While Grace helped Melissa settle in, Keanu sat in the garden with Lila. They watched birds hop between branches as the girl clutched her new teddy bear, a cleaner, brighter one from Grace's collection. Do you live here too? She asked Keanu. He chuckled. No, I live close though, but I visit often. Why? She asked. Keanu thought for a moment. Because sometimes we meet people we're supposed to help, and sometimes they end up helping us too. Lila tilted her head. Did mommy help you? Keanu looked at her, surprised by the question. Then he smiled. Yes, he said softly. She reminded me why kindness matters. That evening, Keanu returned to his house, but something inside him felt different, unsettled. He kept replaying Cody's face in his mind. The rage, the entitlement, and the quiet threat behind his eyes. He knew Cody wasn't finished, and he knew Melissa and Lila weren't safe until he was. Keanu picked up his phone and made a call. Hey, he said, I need a favor, something quiet. Someone's in danger, no cops, just someone who can handle things the right way. The voice on the other end replied, got it. You still know how to pick 'em, don't you? Keanu didn't laugh. This one isn't about me, he said. It's about a little girl who deserves better than fear. 2 days passed. Melissa and Lila adjusted slowly to life at Grace S. Melissa started talking more, sleeping better. She even helped with breakfast in the kitchen and braided Lila's hair every morning. But on the third day, Grace received an envelope. There was no name, no return address. Just a single photo inside. It was of Melissa and Lila, taken outside Keanu's home, through a car window. They didn't even know it had been taken. Melissa's hands began to shake when Grace showed it to her. He found us, she whispered. Grace face hardened. No one told anyone where you were. No one. Melissa looked at her, except Keanu. Meanwhile, Keanu sat with his contact at a quiet downtown cafe. A man named Ryan, former military, worked in private security now. The kind of man who didn't flinch when things got messy. His name is Cody Jenkins, Keanu said, sliding a file across the table. I need to know everything. Where he goes, who he talks to, what he's planning, and if he so much as drives near that shelter again. Ryan nodded. You'll know before he breathes. Keanu nodded. Good. Because she's not going through this again. That night, Grace called Keanu. Her voice was tight. We have a problem, she said. Melissa thinks you told someone where she was. Keanu froze. What? Someone sent a photo of them. Outside your house. She's scared again, shutting down. Keanu stood up from his couch. I didn't tell anyone, not even you. Grace was silent. Then she said, come by tomorrow. Maybe hearing it from you will help. Keanu hung up and stared out his window. Someone was watching. Someone wanted to scare Melissa, but they made a mistake. They underestimated who had her back now. And Keanu wasn't walking away. No more hiding. Next morning, Keanu Reeves drove back to Grace's shelter with a quiet storm behind his eyes. He didn't bring flowers. He didn't bring charm. He brought the truth. As he pulled up, the wind stirred the leaves in the tall trees lining the driveway. Birds scattered from the fountain. As the engine turned off, Keanu stepped out. Not with the air of a movie star, but with the weight of a man who had seen something he couldn't forget. Grace met him at the door. She's in the garden, she said. But she's distant. Keanu nodded. He walked through the warm house, past rooms filled with laughter, soft voices, and the smell of pancakes. But when he reached the garden, it felt cold again. Melissa sat on a wooden bench under the trees. Lila was at a distance, playing with other children, her laughter faint but real. Keanu approached slowly. Melissa didn't look up. He sat down beside her, leaving space. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she said quietly, "Why would someone take that photo?" Keanu looked at her, his voice gentle. "I'm sorry, but it wasn't me." Melissa turned. Her eyes rimmed red. "I want to believe that. I really do. But I've been lied to for so long. I don't know what's real anymore." He nodded slowly. "I get it. But listen to me. When I said you were safe with me, I meant it." She shook her head. "No one's ever really safe." Keanu reached into his coat and pulled out a small file. He placed it gently on her lap. "This is everything about Cody," he said. "Where he works, where he's been, who he talks to. I had someone dig into his life because I knew this wasn't over." Melissa stared at the file like it was on fire. You did this for me." Keanu looked at her. "For you, and for Lila." Meanwhile, in a downtown hotel room, Ryan sat with a pair of binoculars trained on a rusted pickup truck parked outside a bar. Inside that bar, Cody was drinking. Again. Ryan scribbled notes, timestamps, behaviors, conversations. He watched Cody lean toward a man in a gray hoodie and pull out a phone. A moment later, Ryan's burner phone buzzed. A message popped up. Photos sent from this bar's Wi-Fi. Target confirmed. Ryan smiled coldly. "Got you," he whispered. At Grace's shelter. Melissa began reading the file Keanu gave her. Every page made her hands shake. There were past complaints filed against Cody, restraining orders from before he met her, even a charge that had been dismissed only because the woman disappeared. She turned to Keanu with wide eyes. "I never knew any of this." Keanu nodded. "You weren't supposed to. Men like him hide things. They isolate. They control." Melissa stood up suddenly. "I want to do something," she said. "I want to fight back. I don't want to hide anymore." Keanu stood too. "Then we fight. But smart. We don't give him what he wants, fear." Melissa took a deep breath. For the first time in years, she stood tall. Not because she wasn't scared, but because she was done being silent. "What do we do first?" she asked. Keanu smiled. "We let him come." Cody returned to the bar the next evening. This time, he wasn't drunk. He was angry, his jaw clenched, eyes scanning the room like a predator. He spoke to no one. Just ordered a drink. And then his phone buzzed. A text from a blocked number. "I know where she is." His lips curled into a smirk. He stepped outside and called the number. No answer. Just a voicemail that said, "Leave a message." He growled into the phone. "Tell me where she is. And if this is a joke, you're dead." Click. From across the street, Ryan watched. He smiled and sent another message. Sunday. 6 p.m. Old road behind Silver Valley. "Come alone." Cody stared at the message, then laughed to himself. Stupid woman thinks she can hide. Sunday arrived. The old road behind Silver Valley was quiet, overgrown, and forgotten by most. Trees arched over the cracked pavement, and the sun filtered down in dusty shafts of light. Keanu stood beside a black SUV. Melissa stood beside him. Lila was safe, hidden nearby with Grace, guarded by two trusted people. Melissa wore a navy hoodie, pulled low, but her eyes were steady now. "Are you ready?" Keanu asked. She nodded. "I'm not afraid anymore." They waited. At exactly 6, Cody's truck pulled up. He stepped out, looking around. "Melissa," he shouted, "I know you're here." Keanu stepped forward first. Cody froze. "You again?" He snarled. Melissa stepped out next. And for the first time, Cody looked uncertain. "You brought him?" Melissa's voice was clear. "I brought someone who doesn't hit, who listens, who protects." Cody's face twisted. "You think you're something now, because a movie star gave you a blanket." Keanu spoke. "No, because she stood up." Cody stepped closer. but a red laser dot appeared on his chest. He froze. From the trees. Ryan stepped out holding a high-end drone controller. "Don't move," he said. "Your truck's bugged. Your phone's tracked. We've recorded everything. You've said since the bar. You're done." Cody's hands raised slowly. "You can't do this." "I didn't. You broke probation," Ryan said. "You threatened a child. The police don't know yet, but they will." Melissa stepped forward, and for the first time, she spoke with strength. "I'm not running anymore." Cody's eyes darted around. Then he spat at the ground. "You'll regret this." Keanu stepped in front of Melissa. "No," he said. "You will." 20 minutes later, Cody was in handcuffs. Keanu, Melissa, and Ryan stood together as the unmarked car drove away. Melissa looked at the sky. Tears slid down her face again, but not from fear. From freedom. She turned to Keanu. "I thought I was just a broken woman," she whispered. "You're not," he said softly. "You're unbreakable." Melissa smiled. "So what now?" Keanu looked toward the road. "Now," he said, "we build something better." A new chapter begins. The sound of the police car faded into the distance, leaving only silence between the trees. Melissa stood still, as if her body had forgotten what freedom felt like. For so long, every breath she took had been shared with fear. But now, she breathed deeply. Beside her, Keanu gave her a quiet nod. Not the kind of dramatic celebration you see in movies, just a small, steady acknowledgement that she had made it. She had stood up to her past, and one. Ryan, still holding the drone controller, offered a rare smile. "It's over," he said, "but if he tries anything again, he won't even get within 50 feet. Melissa looked at him. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," Ryan replied. "Thank the man who wouldn't walk away." Her eyes drifted to Keanu again. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Back at the shelter, Grace greeted Melissa with a warm hug. Lila came running from the playroom and jumped into her mother's arms. "Mommy," she cried. "Where were you?" Melissa held her close, tears falling again, not from pain this time, but from the weight lifting off her chest. "I was making sure we're safe now," she whispered into her daughter's ear. Keanu stood at the doorway, watching them with quiet respect. Grace walked over to him. "You did good," she said softly. He looked down. "She did it." Grace smiled. "Maybe, but sometimes, even the strongest need someone to stand beside them." Over the next week, things began to change. Melissa didn't just stay at the shelter, she became part of it. She helped cook, fold clothes, and sit with other women who came in bruised and broken, just like she had been. But there was something else too. She smiled now. Not always, not loudly, but real smiles. And Lila, she began to laugh, to play, to sleep through the night without waking up crying. She even painted a picture of a big house with flowers and said, "This is where we live now." Keanu kept visiting, not every day, but often enough. He'd read books to the kids, help carry groceries. Sit with Melissa and talk about simple things, cooking, music, the weather. But behind those simple talks, something deeper was growing. One afternoon, Keanu and Melissa sat on the porch swing outside the shelter. Lila was playing in the grass, pretending her teddy bear was a superhero. Melissa looked at Keanu. "You know, I used to think love had to hurt." He turned to her. "Why?" "Because that's what I saw growing up," she said. "My mom loved my dad, but he hit her." She said love was sacrifice, that it meant staying even when it broke. Keanu's face softened. "That's not love, that's fear wearing a mask." Melissa nodded slowly. "I know that now." A pause. Then she looked at him again. "Why do you help people?" she asked. "You could be anywhere in the world. Why are you here?" Keanu stared at the horizon. For a long time, he didn't speak. Then he said quietly, "Because once, someone helped me." Melissa tilted her head. "You?" He nodded. "Before the fame, before the money. There was a time I was alone, angry, broken. Someone reached out, didn't fix me, but sat with me until I could stand." He turned to her. "I never forgot what that felt like." Melissa looked at him, her eyes full. "Thank you for sitting with me." 2 days later, Grace gathered the women in the shelter's main hall. "We have something special today," she said. a guest who wants to give back. Keanu stood beside her. Some of the women gasped softly when they saw him, not because he was famous, but because someone like him was standing beside someone like them. Melissa stood at the front of the room, holding Lila's hand. Keanu took the microphone. This place, he began, is more than walls. It's more than beds or warm meals. It's a place where broken things can heal. And I've learned over and over again that healing isn't weakness, it's power. The room was silent. Then he continued. So today, I want to start something new. With Grace's help, we're going to launch the Phoenix program. It'll offer job training, therapy, scholarships for women and kids coming out of violence. Soft gasps spread through the room. Melissa stared at him, her mouth slightly open. Keanu smiled. And he added, the first person to join the team, the first voice we want to help lead this, is Melissa. Every head turned toward her. Grace clapped first. Then the rest followed. Melissa blinked back tears. Me, she whispered. Keanu nodded. You didn't just survive. You stood up. You understand what these women are feeling. You can be the light that guides them out. Melissa looked at Lila, then at the room, then at Keanu. And she nodded. A week later, Melissa walked into the shelter again, this time wearing a simple badge with her name and the title Program Coordinator. She walked, tall. Not because she was healed completely, but because now she was helping others heal too. That night, she sat on the same bench in the garden. Keanu joined her. How does it feel? He asked. She smiled. Like I'm finally becoming the woman I forgot I could be. He nodded. You never forgot. She was just waiting for you to set her free. As the stars came out, Lila ran into the garden holding a picture she had drawn. It showed 3 people holding hands under a tree. Melissa, Lila, and Keanu. Melissa looked at the drawing and smiled. She always draws you, and now, she said. Keanu smiled back. I'm honored. You've become her safe place, Melissa whispered. And mine. They sat in silence under the night sky. Nothing more needed to be said. For now. The echo of footsteps. It was late. The kind of late where the world feels like it's holding its breath. Inside the shelter, most of the lights were off. Soft night lamps glowed in the hallways, casting long shadows on the quiet floors. The women and children were asleep, tucked in rooms filled with secondhand blankets and fresh hope. Melissa couldn't sleep. She sat on the edge of her new office chair, staring at her reflection in the small window. Her badge hung on the wall. She had just finished finalizing tomorrow's schedule for the Phoenix program, counseling at 10, resume building at noon, and a self-defense workshop at 4. She had never thought she'd be running anything. Certainly not this. But here she was. Alive. Needed. And respected. Her fingers brushed the side of her face. The bruise was gone now, but the memory was and single quotes T. Just then, there was a soft knock at the door. Melissa stood quickly. It was Grace. I didn't mean to scare you, Grace whispered. Melissa smiled faintly. You didn't. Just thinking. Grace stepped inside. Her face looked more serious than usual. There's something you should know, she said softly. And I wanted you to hear it from me. Double quotes Melissa TENSED. Grace continued. Cody escaped. In another part of the city, Ryan stood over a smashed window. The safe house they had quietly arranged for Cody's temporary holding was trashed. No signs of blood, but no sign of him either. The guards had been drugged. Someone on the inside had helped. Ryan picked up a broken phone near the floor and cursed under his breath. He called Keanu. We've got a problem. Keanu was already halfway through his front door, jacket in hand. At the shelter, Melissa's face had gone pale. How? She whispered. Grace placed a hand on her shoulder. The team is handling it. We've already doubled security. No one's getting in or out without being seen. But I knew you'd want to know. Melissa swallowed hard. Does Keanu know? He does, Grace replied. And he's on his way. Melissa closed her eyes. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was supposed to be the after, the calm. But monsters don't always stay gone. Keanu arrived just after midnight. He found Melissa in the main room, staring out the large front window. Her body still, but her eyes wide and alert. It's going to be okay, he said softly as he entered. She didn't turn right away. What if it's not? She whispered. What if he finds her? Keanu walked over and stood beside her. He won't. She looked at him. You don't know that. He paused. You're right. I don't. But I do know this. He's running scared now. And scared. Men make sloppy choices. Melissa shook her head. He always said, if I can't have you, no one can. Keanu looked her in the eyes. He's wrong. You were never his to have. You're your own. Melissa felt a lump in her throat. She didn't want to cry, but the tears came anyway. 3 nights passed. Every shift at the shelter was alert. Cameras were checked, doors double locked. Even Lila was taught a new safety game. If anything felt wrong, she was to run to Miss Grace's office and press the red button on the wall. Lila thought it was fun. Melissa knew it could save her life, that Keanu stayed in a guest room at the shelter, quietly, without drawing attention. He didn't want to bring media or questions, just eyes. Steady eyes that watched and waited. On the 4th night, Ryan called. We've traced a burner phone. He said, a message was sent to a storage unit company just 10 blocks from you. Keanu leaned against the porch railing. What kind of message? It said, tell the woman I'm waiting. Same place where she first said no. Keanu's jaw tightened. He turned and walked straight inside. Melissa was already in the hallway, holding a file. She saw his face and stopped. It's him, isn't it? She asked. Keanu nodded. He wants you to meet him. I know where he means, Melissa said quietly. There's a storage unit off 6th Avenue. It's where he first hit me. I told him I was leaving. He locked me inside for hours. Keanu stepped forward. You don't have to go. Melissa looked at him, then looked toward the room where Lila was sleeping. I'm tired of running, she said. I need to end this. Keanu saw something in her eyes. Not fear. Resolve. Then we do it smart, he said. You won't be alone. The storage unit was as she remembered. Dark, dusty. Smelling of oil and rust. Melissa stepped inside slowly. Her footsteps echoed on the concrete. She wore a hidden mic. Keanu and Ryan were nearby, watching every movement from the van parked outside. Inside the unit, a single bulb swung from the ceiling, and Cody stepped out of the shadows. His face was gaunt, eyes bloodshot, like a man who had burned through every drop of control he ever had. You came, he said. Melissa stood still. You wanted to talk. Talk. Cody laughed coldly. You're braver now. Must be nice, having a movie star back. You up? She said nothing. You think this ends here? He hissed. You think I'm scared of him? Melissa tilted her head. I think you're scared of me. Double quotes. Cody blinked. She stepped closer. You used to hit me when I couldn't fight back, when I was weak, scared. But I'm not scared now. Cody raised his voice. I should've, but before he could finish, the doors behind him slammed shut. Floodlights came on. Keanu and Ryan stepped into the unit. Cody spun around, caught like an animal in a trap. This time, Keanu said calmly, you're not walking away. Cody was taken by private security. This time, there was no mistake. Evidence was stacked. He wouldn't see the outside world again for a very long time. Back at the shelter, Melissa held Lila in her arms and whispered a single sentence. He's gone, baby. Lila looked up sleepily. Really, Melissa whispered. We're safe now. A week passed. Then Melissa stood in front of a group of new women at the shelter. She held up a photograph, her old bruised face, and said, this is who I was. And this, she said, turning to smile at Lila, is why I chose to become something more. The women clapped. Some cried. Keanu watched from the back of the room. His eyes met hers, and she nodded. Because together, they had turned pain into purpose, and they weren't done yet. The woman who stood back up. Soft evening wind swept across the garden of the shelter, bending the tall flowers and rustling the pages of the speech Melissa held in her hands. Tonight was special. The Phoenix program was celebrating its official public launch. No longer just an idea whispered in quiet hallways or a project funded silently in the background. It was real now, official, strong. Melissa stood under a white tent, strung with lights. Rows of chairs were filled, some by women who had once lived inside the shelter's walls, others by supporters, local leaders, counselors, volunteers. In the front row sat Lila in a bright yellow dress. Beside her sat Keanu. His expression was quiet, but his eyes followed every movement Melissa made. Grace stood at the edge of the stage, proud tears in her eyes. Ryan, somewhere in the back, leaned on a post, nodding to himself like a soldier watching a mission completed. Melissa stepped up to the podium. The crowd fell silent. 2 years ago, she began. I sat outside a garage holding my daughter, cold, bleeding, and afraid. Some people in the crowd looked at one another. I thought that night would be the end of me. I thought no one would stop. No one would care. Her voice trembled, but she kept going. But someone did. She glanced at Keanu, and that kindness changed everything. The audience held its breath. Melissa continued, "Tonight, I don't stand before you as a victim. I stand as proof. Proof that healing is possible, that second chances are real, that people who have been broken can become leaders." Applause began, but she raised her hand gently, and the room quieted again. "We named this program Phoenix for a reason, because a phoenix rises from fire and ashes, not untouched, but stronger." Melissa closed her notes, then looked into the crowd. "If you're out there tonight, hurting, hiding, or thinking no one sees you, please hear me. I see you. I was you, and you are not alone." The crowd stood. Not just a polite applause. A standing ovation. People clapped with emotion in their hands, some wiping away tears, others nodding with solemn respect. Lila beamed like the sun. Keanu rose slowly, hands clapping, eyes full of something deep and wordless. He had seen a lot in his life, but this was something else. This was someone finding her voice and using it to lift others. Later that night, the stars glowed bright above the quiet shelter. Most of the guests had gone home. The children were tucked in, and the lights inside were dim. Keanu and Melissa sat on the same bench they always returned to. Lila had fallen asleep on a blanket beside them, her bear tucked under her arm. "You were incredible tonight," Keanu said. Melissa shook her head slowly, smiling. "I was terrified. You didn't show it." She turned to look at him. "I was only able to stand there," she said, "because you stopped that night, because you gave us a chance." Keanu looked at her, serious now. "You were always strong," he said. "I just reminded you." Melissa went quiet. Then her voice dropped softer. "I've been thinking," she said, "about what happens next. For the program, for me." Keanu waited. Melissa took a breath. "I used to think the best thing I could hope for was just surviving, making it through each day. But now, I want to live." He nodded gently. "What does living look like for you now?" She turned to him, heart racing a little. "I want to build a home for Lila, one that's filled with safety and music and pancakes and movie nights. I want to write a book, maybe speak in schools, and I want to stop hiding from love." Keanu's brow lifted just slightly. Melissa smiled. "I don't mean falling into it blindly," she added. "I mean letting it in, slowly, honestly." They sat there, quiet again. The wind played with Melissa's hair. Keanu leaned forward, slightly. "So if love came knocking," he said gently, "would you open the door?" She looked at him, straight into his eyes. "I think I already did." The next morning, Keanu helped carry boxes into the new Phoenix Center's building, a larger, sunlit space where the program would now run full-time. Melissa walked beside him, holding a clipboard, directing volunteers, and laughing as Lila ran around with a paper crown on her head. They were no longer running from the past. They were walking toward something. Something strong. Something sacred. Keanu paused at the doorway and looked back. Melissa was hugging a new woman who had just arrived, bruised, silent, afraid. Keanu watched as Melissa knelt, handed her a soft towel, and said gently, "You're safe now." Just like Grace had once said to her. And just like Melissa would say to hundreds more. That night, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Lila tugged Keanu's hand. "Can I show you something?" "Of course." He smiled. She led him to the porch, pointed at the stars, and whispered, "That one is Mommy's star, the one that never falls." Keanu looked at the star she pointed to. It shimmered steady and bright. "It fits her," he said. Lila leaned against his side. "You make her smile," she said. Keanu looked down. "She makes me remember," he replied softly. "Remember what?" that love doesn't always shout, he said. Sometimes it shows up quietly and stays. They sat there, all three of them. As night fell gently round them, a new story was beginning. Not one of bruises or fear, but of strength, of hope, of a woman who stood back up, and a man who stayed. Together, they built something beautiful, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. And it was theirs.